Good morning, everyone, and thank you guys so much for joining today's stream. We have a lot moving so far this morning, mainly looking at the SPY. We are seeing it fall slightly. Across the board, we have a lot of mixed momentum. Cruise lines are still on the uptrend, along with Boeing and some other recovery plays. I really like cruise lines over the next couple months, and especially some of these solid companies like Boeing. On the other hand, we do have certain stocks falling off a little bit, like Apple. So either way, we're definitely set for an interesting day. Tom, what are some of the top stocks on your radar heading into this week? Tom, I think you might be muted.
Yeah, sorry, I was messing around with my mic this morning, guys. Sorry if I sound a little bit different than usual, too. But actually, looking at Apple here this morning, Mike, I was looking at the S&P 500 pretty hard, and I was really seeing a pretty big pullback compared to that nice upswing we saw on Friday, and then that nice move up in pre-market. I was really thinking maybe we'd see the market start to break out after that move, but we failed to see that, pulled right back down through 444, which I thought was pretty big. And now, like you said, Mike, we're seeing some bigger stocks like Apple, even Microsoft down this morning in the red. Tesla is pulling back a little bit. We even have NIO kind of moving down this morning. So overall, it's just a pretty bad day for the market to start it off. And I'm guessing that we'll start off in the red pretty good. But, you know, we could always recover at open, and we could see a lot of these stocks turn back around, kind of like what we're seeing with NIO here at open. You know, there is a lot of green coming into the stock market, it looks like, at this very second. But, man, we've been falling down all of pre-market.
Alrighty, so thank you guys so much for joining. Welcome David, Morris, Mac, Keisha, Sean, Iranical, Carlos, Jamie, Bill, Vicky, Jorge, Santiago, James, and I'm Fierce. It's awesome to see you guys on the stream. It looks like we had a little bit of a technical error today. I know we were messing around with a couple adjustments for the stream. So it looks like we fixed the screen and the audio. If you guys notice anything, feel free to just put it in the chat. Also, welcome Alex and T to the stream. I'm really watching Boeing heading into this week. I feel like they do have a lot of potential. One is like a longer term play, but also two is just like a short term momentum play. I know that they had like 3 huge green days recently, but they are a powerhouse. And, you know, looking back throughout history, when they go on these like uptrends, they normally last for at least a couple weeks. And then Tom, you're muted again.
Yeah, they do. And you can see that last week it was actually consolidating a lot around 222. And we saw that huge gap up and breakout this morning all the way up to 225. And that's actually a pretty good run that we're seeing right now, Mike. Like you said, a lot of potential in the short term. I love how it consolidated on Friday, and we're getting that nice breakout this morning. That's an awesome resistance. We broke around 222, and it's just running up very nicely. Like you said, I think there's a really good chance for a possible momentum or even a day trade right here with Boeing. It looks really good on the intraday charts, but even the daily is looking awesome. Like, we really held that 210 support. We ended up coming right back up, and it's on a great uptrend and just a great recovery. I know just last week Boeing was kind of falling out, and honestly, it fell out below 210 for a couple days. It was looking pretty rough, but it came roaring right back to life.
Good stuff. And then take a look at Disney real quick. They're having a pretty good day right at open. We can see a bunch of buyers are flocking right into this one. Also a pretty good longer term play, but it also has that short term potential. I'm still waiting on their news with that ESPN and sports betting deal. I know that some of the top prospects were DraftKings and then Caesars. So either way, I'm just really waiting for that news. And then speaking of like betting and stuff like that, I know the MGM, I believe they just bought the Cosmopolitan. Yeah, they bought the Cosmopolitan in Vegas, and let's see. So they bought that for around $5.65 billion, it looks like. So either way, that's just some news that came across the board, and they actually bought that from Blackstone, which is that's BlackRock. Blackstone is BX, I believe. Yeah, BX. So
Okay, yeah, I was gonna say BlackRock. If it was BlackRock, that would have been crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, either way, just keep that on your radar. Speaking of BX, so I feel like this one's a little bit overbought, and you know, puts are definitely getting they're getting a little pricey, as we can see with this IV increase. But either way, this one's actually a pretty decent setup for like a put debit spread. You know, maybe you buy like the 120 strike put and sell the 110 strike put. Definitely a pretty decent setup.
Yeah, I think so too. And then as you start to get closer to that $100 psychological level, I think it'll be a decent time to maybe get in for the longer term too. But I'm with you right now. It definitely looks a little overextended. And kind of going back to MGM, MGM just broke out to all-time highs, and it looked like they were going to really try to run. And I'm really wondering if this deal can be what they need to get that big push to the upside here, up above $45, because they've had a lot of trouble. And it looks like right now at open, there is this green coming in. And I would think that with this deal with the Cosmo that they would be able to go up through. But like we see, sometimes the buyer in these deals ends up going down on this news. So we'll have to see what happens. But I would really think that that would help them in the short term.
Yep. Apple's kind of tanking off to start the day, down almost 2%. Yeah, it's not looking the best with the Apple. We have Alex saying BBIG is up quite a bit at opening. So BBIG up 17% already today. So yeah, definitely good eye, Alex. This looks like one of those hype slash meme stocks. I mean, it's not as quite of a meme as like AMC or GME, but it still has that like hype stock setup. Either way, it has good momentum. You just have to be careful playing these ones because the options pricing is ridiculous on them. But besides that, it definitely has potential for short-term momentum plays.
Yeah, and it really flew up this morning, which was awesome. And like you said, it had so much momentum up at that $8 resistance. Now it's just posting like lower highs at open here, coming back down a little bit. Definitely watch for a move up through 8. I feel like if we break through that, we could see another big move, possibly like to 9 or 10 even. This stock is already up 14%, and I could see it continuing up today at some point. Maybe not right now, but later on. But I will say the movement looks pretty decent out of this one. And I even saw AMC, Mike, this morning, ever since open, has been moving up pretty well. Looks like over the past like couple minutes, there is a couple red candles coming in. But man, even AMC had a lot of hype at open, running from $40 up to $40.60.
Great stuff. All right, we have Keisha saying ExxonMobil is on a rip tear. How's it looking?
Actually looking really good. And I saw the crude oil slash CL was actually back on the uptrend this morning, moving from $74 a barrel all the way up to $75.63. You can look at the daily chart of crude, and man, it looks like we might be retesting that 77 resistance over the next couple days. So I could definitely see these crude stocks continuing to go up in the short term. Now, crude oil seems a little overextended on the daily chart, but I'll be honest, the crude stocks are breaking out pretty well. Exxon's going to be retesting that $60 resistance, so possibly watch out for that over the next couple days. But overall, they're on a recovery play, Mike. Very similar to what I'm seeing out of like CCL, AAL, some of these airlines. The setups look almost the exact same as these oil stocks, and I know that they're totally different sectors, but they're all just in those recovery type of setups right now.
Good stuff. Boeing's still looking good. How's Palantir? I see that they're actually falling off a little bit. RCL's leading the way to the upside on my watch list. It does suck to see Apple in the red, though. With such a large company being in the red, that will limit some of these stocks that are roaring to the upside. And at the same time, when you have Apple down, a lot of times you'll see just like other, or not even just Apple, but when you see like other big names down, you'll see a lot of other stocks just fall too, as we can see with Microsoft.
Yeah, Microsoft, AMD, Zoom, Apple, Netflix is down 2%. That's not good to see either. I know they're pretty big. Yeah, it's just all these big stocks are down today. It's not good. I know Nvidia is actually like almost leading my watch list to the downside, down 2.6%. These pullbacks are getting pretty big out of some of these bigger tech stocks that have really killed it for the past couple of years. Keep in mind that Nvidia, AMD, Apple, all those stocks did great during COVID, and a lot of these stocks like Exxon and Mobil, Carnival Cruise Lines and stuff like that did terrible during COVID. So I think that we're just kind of seeing that kind of transition into some of those recovery plays, kind of like what we've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, Mike. And I think it's becoming pretty obvious. Like with Nvidia here, we're starting to really turn off. This was one of the biggest hyped up stocks for the past 3 months. And now it's just getting really, it's consolidating around 230. And that hype is really leaving Nvidia here, at least in the short term. I'm sure it'll come back. But for right now, people are really jumping into these opportunities on CCL, RCL, Boeing, like you said, even like CHPT and RUN down here at the bottoms, I think are pretty good pickups too.
Yeah, I think it's 100% confirmed that we're seeing that rotation because, you look at Apple, they're down almost 2%, but then you look at RCL, that's up 3%. You look at CCL, that's up 4%. You look at American Airlines, up 2%. Like basically any recovery play is popping off. So that's great to see, and there's still time to enter. Like I know that they're up a lot over the past week or two, but at the end of the day, these rotations usually last like a couple months at least. So just keep that in mind. Right now the move is I think definitely some sort of recovery plays. Or maybe just like selling some puts in some of these tech stocks if you would want to buy the dip.
Yeah, that could be a good way to go, selling those puts. And I like what you pointed out with these moves are kind of expected to run. We already double topped on a lot of these stocks here, like with RCL, right around this $100 resistance. We had a pretty big, a pretty big rejection there, like 2 times. And, a lot of people say that on the third touch or at least after the third touch, they talk about that it's usually set to break that pretty soon. So hopefully we can actually get up through $100. And, keep in mind that a lot of these stocks like RCL, CCL, Boeing even, they're not even close to where they were at, before COVID happened. Like we can see RCL was up here around 130. You could say around maybe like 110, but until we break $100, we're not going to be even at those pre-COVID levels. And if we go look at stocks like Apple, I mean, they've just beaten their pre-COVID levels and then doubled since then. So like that just shows you that I think how much potential there still is with these recovery plays. I really do believe that these stocks like RCL and CCL, while they are right now at like $100, I really feel like that over the next few years they'll get up towards like 120, 130, and eventually I think back up to all-time highs. It's going to take a few years though. Like these recovery plays aren't just going to go up tomorrow. I think you have to definitely buy and hold it for a while.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like I don't see them, recovering to all-time highs like this year, but over the course of a couple years I can see it. It's going to be a tough road back up though because when you think about it, these cruise lines, airlines, hotel stocks and just those like industries and sectors took a really bad beating during COVID where, some of these tech stocks like Google or Amazon like they exploded up. COVID was awesome for them, and it tripled their business almost with some of these plays. So it's an interesting setup, but I feel like there is potential with it. So keep that on your radar. I mean, speaking of it, RCL's up 3.5% already. So good stuff there. PENN's not doing too bad. Let's see. How's Zoom doing? How's Zoom looking to you, Tom? It's taking a beating.
Yeah, I know earlier it was not looking good. And, at open, it actually had a nice little move back to the upside, Mike, and it tried to pop, but it just got rejected totally. And now we're back towards that 267 support down here at the bottom. And it's just not looking good today or looking good in the short term. I know that they recently fell below support, as we can see on the daily here. They fell below 280 and then finally fell below that 275 support also. It's just not looking good. They're falling out. They had a lot of problems with COVID, and their outlook for the future is just not good right now. I feel like in the future it'll be a little bit better, but for right now their outlook's just bad. We just went through that COVID crisis, and keep in mind Zoom was a company really benefiting from people staying at home and stuff. So now that people are getting back in person, Zoom's taking a bit of a hit in the short term, but I feel like that eventually, even if we come down to like 250 or even down towards 200, I feel like buying somewhere around there could be great for the next couple of years. I really feel like we could get back up towards 400 or higher eventually.
All right. We have Rick saying, looks like a sit and watch day for me. Sometimes that's the way to go. If you don't know which way, or if you're not liking the market sentiment, then it never hurts to just, take a seat on the bench, and watch everything else. And, worst come to worst, you don't make any plays, but even if you see something later on in the day, you can always strike on it. So definitely not a bad way to go, Rick. Let's see. So, the main like thing to watch as of right now, Tom, besides recovery plays is, Apple and Microsoft are definitely struggling today. They're down 2%. And they're just not looking good. We can see that they had a ton of sellers come in right at open. And, I think that goes to show us that while the market had an amazing week last week, we're not out of the clear. The market can definitely still fall more.
Yeah, I think it definitely can too. And you're just seeing a lot of stocks go down right now. And if we go check out like Apple on the daily chart, Mike, let's go check them out on like the just like the 1 year daily. Look at how close they actually still are to all-time highs. Like we are 144 a share, but the all-time high is at 157. And man, we usually see pullbacks pretty significant, more significant than this. We can see in the past Apple will hit around like 145, pull back to like 120. So I could see more of a pullback right now, possibly down to like the 140 support, or maybe even like the 138 support. I feel like we could see a decent move down to there. And then just look at this on the daily. Like we're starting to really just turn over to the downside. It looks like a little bit of a dead cat bounce to me, Mike. We had a nice move down. We had these 2 or 3 consolidation green days, and now it's just turning right back over. To me, it looks like a dead cat bounce. And if we see Apple fall below that 140 support, I mean, man, it's not going to be looking good. And it's already not looking good. Look at the QQQ. It pretty much has the same exact setup as Apple and Microsoft does. And if you look at QQQ on the 5-minute chart, they have so much downwards momentum today, and their support down here at 360 is pretty far. So I could see it keep going down too over the next couple days. And it looks like that the sell-off is just starting. Like I said, we just saw those consolidation green days last week, Mike. And now to start this week, we come right in with this red momentum after Powell spoke last week and kind of help the market back. I just think it's a really bad sign to start the week off like this. And I definitely think it could accelerate as we continue on this week. And then also Congress has a bunch of stuff coming up too.
True. So we have Sean saying Bank of America and JP Morgan popping off seems odd. Yeah, like it is kind of weird because they're not like full on recovery plays, but at the same time they do tend to move when these recovery plays pop off. I know that some of these bank stocks do have earnings relatively soon, as we can see with JP Morgan. I know rates were rising, which would help bank stocks. Like you look at TLT, this is falling. This means that rates are rising. So that can definitely play a role as to why bank stocks are rising. Obviously, when the rates rise, they'll make a lot more money. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Then we have Samora saying thoughts on BBIG. So it looks like a lot of people are talking about this one this morning. It's up a lot right now. It has a lot of momentum. Just the main thing I would say to watch out for is these overpriced options. The IV's at 200%. So whether you're playing it to the upside or the downside, it's going to be a little bit hard to profit. Because the options are really expensive.
Yeah, you're going to have to time it really good. And I think that the best way to trade an option on this one would be more of like just doing a super quick day trade. And when I say super quick, I mean like something like within like 5 minutes or something. Because like he said, that IV's nuts. You don't want to hold these too long. It could definitely start to bite you. Even a small move the wrong way could really hurt that IV, which will end up hurting you. But I personally don't think it looks too good right now, Mike. It kind of has lower highs here. We hit off of $8 right on the head. And the good news is we're bouncing kind of around this $7 support and maybe heading back up. And it looks like we're hitting off the 100 SMA too. So if it holds this and we go back up and we break back above 775, I think we could see another decent move. But I'll be honest, it looks like we kind of have a double top at 775. And I just don't feel like we're going to be able to get back up through there today, Mike. It just looks like lower highs. And to me, the setup just doesn't look too good. But if it does end up breaking this, I really hope it runs. And I'm really hoping for a nice run up towards like $9 or something. I think that would be amazing.
All right, we have Jorge saying MMAT with the rocket. Let's take a look. MMAT. Oh, yeah, it's looking really good, actually. It's starting to pop off, up like 7%. What I like about this one is while the IV is, I guess you could say it's high. It's 145%. Relatively speaking, it's not that high. So I actually feel like there's a decent amount of opportunity with this one. And I'm actually glad you pointed out, Jorge, because I actually might join you.
Yeah, and it's actually the IV some of the lowest it's been since the options have been on the market. So that, yeah, like you said, relatively to what it's been, it's definitely looking pretty good. And look at that today. I mean, what a big pop out of MMAT. It reminds me of like some of these other plays running like CCL, Lucid. Some of those other stocks that are running today look pretty good too. But man, MMAT really came in. Look at this 1 year daily with them. They've actually been recovering up so nice off this $3 support. And I feel like a lot of buyers are buying this one up, Mike. I'm really hoping for another push up towards $6 or possibly through it.
Yeah, I'm actually really tempted with this setup. So thank you, Jorge, for pointing that one out. We have Alex saying UPST dropped nicely, then turned around just like that. Same like the SPY. So yeah, let's take a look at it. UPST, it is technically down around 1%, but just like Alex said, it's coming right back up. So this is exactly why I don't like to short these plays, because I would be in short positions, whether it be Home Depot, Redfin, or Target, and it'll be red right at open, and then it might even stay red for a couple hours, but it's almost guaranteed to come right back up later in the day. And it's just a matter of time before this thing just flushes down. So it's so hard to play these ones, but it's still going.
Yeah, and I feel like it's gonna flush down soon, Mike. Like we've been going up for a long time, and I really feel like that this might be the beginning of it. And I know it's so hard to call a top. We've already said it, like 8 times on the way up where we thought it could be. But I really have a feeling right now with this second red day coming in that I think we might be able to get a nice drop today. And I would say on like the 1 minute chart here, if we're able to stay below like $330 on UPST today, I think that we'll stay with the downtrend. But, like Mike said, this stock's been going up so much. I would hate for you guys to just go jump into puts right now and then have the stock fly up. So definitely don't go do that. There's definitely good potential for it to go up, but I really feel like, Mike, that it's on the brink of finally falling off. We've actually broken some of these key levels, like the 200 SMA that on the way up hasn't really been broken one time yet. So I'm really hoping for a nice move down off of this.
Very interesting. We have Kenny with Goldman Sachs and then the Flying Dollar. So let's take a look at that one. They're definitely popping off. And, like we mentioned with Sean a little bit, it looks like these bank stocks can definitely be rising with these rates rising. So definitely a good movement right there. We have Jorge saying no problem, and he said Penn is about to test 78. So I was actually looking at this one. Wow, I didn't even see it popped off this much. I was looking at it this morning when it wasn't doing anything, but wow, this is a pretty good move.
Yeah, it actually came right up through that 76.50 resistance. Has an awesome move, like you said, Mike. The play looks really awesome. It was in a little bit of a channel last week between 75 and 76.50. Like we said this morning, it had an awesome push up through there. Looking at the 1 year daily, Penn had a pretty bad move to the downside the past couple weeks, but look at this, Mike. This is actually 4 pretty good green days in a row, and I think that this breakout here above 75 is showing a pretty good move back to the upside, and I could possibly see a good move up towards $80 or even like 82 or 83 later on this week. I love this setup, and man, for shares, it's giving us a good opportunity with that pullback it had too. Like we're honestly around 75 to $80 is a great time for the long term.
Perfect. Alrighty, so good stuff there. I'm just doing a quick scan right now. It looks like Lucid is popping back up a little bit, or at least they're trying to. They're up almost 5% on the day. Tesla is struggling a little bit, but like they're not even really down that much. You know what I mean? Like they're down 0.3%. Like that's nothing for Tesla.
Yeah, and we'll have to see what happens with Tesla because it's been very interesting so far today with these bigger tech stocks like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, all tanking off to the downside, even AMD. Honestly, just all have been looking terrible this morning. And it's just weird to see Tesla kind of popping up. I know that they're not directly correlated with those stocks, but they're just in that tech sector, and the QQQ has been getting destroyed today. So I was really hoping that Tesla would maybe fall down with them. And I know Tesla's been getting really close to this longer term blue trend line on my daily chart again, Mike. And it seems like every time we hit this blue trend line, we go to the downside. And, we've bounced off of it 6 or 7 times now. And I'm just wondering if this will finally be the time that maybe Tesla gets some good news with this self-driving software or something, and it'll finally push up through here and maybe head up towards $800. I mean, I feel like people have been waiting for it for a long time, and we just keep getting rejection after rejection here.
Interesting. Alrighty, so let's see what we have. What are your thoughts on Corsair? Like this one's just been consolidating for what seems like ever now.
Yeah, it has been. It's been consolidating for a long time, and one thing that came to my mind like a couple weeks ago with Corsair is that we had a nice uptrend last year right around November and December, right into that cusp of like the holiday season. That's like right whenever people are buying Corsair's products the most. They're buying keyboards, mice, headsets. All their kids are wanting this stuff for Christmas and stuff. So I feel like that heading back into this holiday season, I think that Corsair will end up doing pretty good. They'll, like I said, they generally do better during that season anyways. But right now, with everything going on, and with gaming becoming bigger and bigger, and with all these new games coming out and stuff, I really feel like Corsair should go up more heading into the winter season. Like I said, that's more of their type of season anyways. So I feel like it'll end up doing a lot better this year. But you're right, it's been consolidating a lot. And I'm really hoping that this $25 support holds up. If we see Corsair fall down and break through 25, I'll be really, really worried. Kind of like what we're seeing right now with a lot of stocks like Zoom, for example. If Corsair pulls a Zoom and starts falling down below support, I'll be really, really worried. But I'm really thinking that CRSR might end up holding up, being the computer company they are.
Gotcha. Good stuff there. And then what are you thinking with this GM action?
Yeah, GM I think is actually looking great, Mike. They've had a lot of hype over the past couple weeks, and I know people have really been looking at GM. We hadn't really got, they haven't really had too much support over the past few years, but I know that with their EV announcements and with the way their stock's been moving, lots of people have actually been talking about GM and Ford, and I feel like that they could be pretty good. It looks like GM had a nice double bottom down here around $48 and honestly broke back up through 50 pretty well. And I think it looks like a pretty good recovery, Mike. And, we had a big pullback from 64 all the way back down to 46 or 45. That was honestly a pretty big drop. And I'm glad to see it kind of popping back up like this. And I think that we might retest this 55 resistance over the next week.
Yep, it's looking pretty good. Definitely like that setup as well. We have Jorge saying CAT filled the gap, now back above 200. So, yeah, this one's definitely been struggling a little bit over the past couple months, but they're a solid stock, solid company, and I think they can definitely pop back up. And right now, they have earnings approaching in a couple weeks. So I can definitely see a big move sometime soon.
Oh, and Mike, don't forget that infrastructure package. Pelosi said that's expected to pass or something sometime this week. So that might make Caterpillar pop up too, because I know that they're like a construction company like in that infrastructure package.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. Good stuff there. And then what are you thinking with Home Depot? They're having a pretty good day.
Yeah, they are actually recovering up very nicely all the way up to 343. I know that this stock was getting beaten down for a while, and they're actually approaching all-time highs again now after having that huge pullback. Like we talked about, it used to be like a UPST or just a crazy stock that would never go down, just green day after green day back in March and May. But man, I think it looks pretty good, to be honest, Mike, and it's going right back up. And I think what a lot of people were saying a while ago, Mike, is that they kept saying, oh, the housing market's going to fall off. And whenever that falls off, Home Depot and Lowe's are going to end up going down. But I'll be honest, Mike, I think the housing market's held up pretty well, a lot better than I think a lot of people were expecting. I know it's held up a lot longer than I thought it would personally. And it's still looking pretty good. Home Depot's flying up, and I would expect a retest of all-time highs pretty soon. We're honestly getting really, really close, Mike. What are your thoughts? And I know that I know you're not like the king of the housing market or anything, but I know you're a lot more into that market than I am.
Yeah, so, it's interesting because with rates so low, there's just so many buyers coming in, and then at the same time, there isn't a ton of supply on the market. So that's one of the reasons why, housing prices have just exploded over the past year. Another thing is there's a lot of shortages with basically everything now. And, that just delays new houses being built. So, there's just, a lot of different factors that are really just exploding the market up. And, Home Depot, whether the market, I don't think it's going to tank, but whether it tanks or whether it continues to explode up, I feel they're in a relatively good position. They might see a little slowdown in their business. Of course, if the housing market slowed down dramatically, but keep in mind that we just don't have a ton of supply, for homes for sale on the market right now. So, even if prices came down a little bit and the supply rose, I would think that would help Home Depot. You know what I mean? You'd have more people renovating houses and all that stuff. So either way, they're definitely doing pretty well, and they're actually a pretty solid company for the long term.
Yeah, and people have argued also that with the housing market doing so well the past couple of years, that everybody's been buying new houses, and that boom has really brought people into the market, and those people have to go to Home Depot for little repairs and just little problems with their house. So great point there. And I really feel like I'm with you that this stock could really like withstand like a market drop. I feel like a lot better than other stocks could. Like for example, if we see a huge market drop, Home Depot is probably going to hold up a lot better than a stock like General Motors, for example. Like General Motors is so reliant on people having a lot of money, and they're reliant on those cars getting bought. And like we saw during '08, like these companies like General Motors just got killed.
Yep. All right, and then we have Sean asking about CVX. So let's take a look. CVX, oil, banks, and recovery plays are popping across the board today. Tom, what are you seeing with this one?
Yeah, I think I could see it possibly going up for this week and maybe in the short term for a little while. But I will say though, guys, be pretty careful with these stocks. And me and Mike actually talked about this in yesterday's YouTube video. Is that while I do like oil plays for short, quicker plays and just for little swing trades like off of like supports, for example, like CVX, if you would have bought at the 95 support, you'd be doing great right now. But I think it's good to play them off technicals. But for long-term holds, I'm kind of with Mike. It's not going to be oil's definitely getting phased out, and I know that it's going to be around forever. Airplanes use it and stuff still, of course, like in their fuel, and obviously it's going to be around in machinery, like factories use it and stuff. So it's not going to get totally phased out, but keep in mind it's probably going to get hurt a lot, especially these gas station companies, because if consumers aren't buying gas anymore, they have to figure out something different to do. But one thing I just want to point out really quick is if we go to the crude oil futures daily chart, you can see how close we are to getting to this double top around $77. Now, I know we're flying up right now and it looks so nice to buy Exxon and CVX. We could possibly double top here at 76 and have a big drastic move back to the downside. And we've seen it happen before. Like the last time we touched 76, we pretty much had a straight down drop down to 65. So if we see another double top here, keep in mind that your stocks like CVX and XOM and all those oil stocks will probably hit resistance around like 105 and then end up tanking down with oil. If oil goes down, the chances of these stocks going up are pretty low. And that's just how it's usually been in the market. It's not a direct correlation, but just be really careful. Oil's getting really, really high and pretty overextended. And if it does double top, or if we do see a big drop, these oil stocks will get hurt pretty bad. And I don't think that they're going to get killed, but I feel like that CVX and Exxon, like for example, CVX could fall easily below this 93 support if oil takes a big hit.
All right, and then we have Alex saying, how does plug look? I have a plug 25 strike call for January 21st of 2022. So this one has been all over the place. It kind of juked me out. I was liking it a lot a couple weeks ago, but it was tanking off and I ended up getting out. But I like the setup now. It definitely juked me out, and I actually like the setup.
I actually do too. This daily is looking pretty good, Mike, and it reminds me of like a dead cat bounce almost to the upside. And we can see there's these two red days coming in. We have this nice green day right now. And one other big thing, Mike, is that I know I talked about that infrastructure bill a little bit ago, but these EV stocks like Plug, CHPT, BLNK Charging, all those stocks are getting funding in these infrastructure bills. Apparently, they're funding these EV charging companies to try to get that more integrated into society and stuff. And that's going to be big, I think, for Plug, CHPT, and these other stocks. And hopefully they get a lot of momentum before this gets passed, because I feel like this could be a great play, possibly heading into that bill getting passed, or even for the long term. I think Plug's in a great spot, Mike. Don't you? I mean, it's pretty low.
I think it is in a great spot, and with implied volatility being so low, I feel like it makes it a good setup for call options. My only concern is about the company. You know what I mean? Like I know that they've been doing very well over the past year or two, which is great to see. It's just personally, I have not done the full-on research with Plug like I did with DraftKings or Corsair or stocks like that. So in terms of setup, I think it's great. In terms of implied volatility, I think it's also great. I would just have to do a little bit more research on the company, but besides that, I like the play.
Yeah, and I feel like that I like what you said about the research, and I feel like that with Plug, Mike, it's going to be a lot harder to find a lot of good, valuable research on this one compared to like DraftKings, which is just like a huge company making huge profits right now. Like I feel like Plug is just so much in like those beginning stages. it's almost like buying like Lucid right now, you know, like it's so like up in the air. Like, is Lucid going to turn into a Nikola Motors or something? Like, you know, there's always that weird chance that something weird like that could happen. And I'm with you. It's definitely smart to do that research for the long term. And I'm honestly like, look at Lucid here. This looks pretty good for a nice EV play too.
All right, and then we have Bravo saying, "Good morning, guys. What do you guys think of Boeing today? Is Boeing a buy now again?" So yeah, I honestly with this one, I just feel like it has a lot of room to pop up, and I feel like your best bet is to just buy it and hold it, you know. And then Bravo said, he said, "So news yesterday, Pfizer CEO said that he expects COVID to fade in 1 to 2 years and go away. That could get huge boost to reopening plays." And then Bravo said that he thinks Boeing is the stock moving forward. I think it could easily go to 240 to 250. And then he said MSGS is killing it. So lots of info there. We'll start off with Boeing. They're a great stock, great company. I love them. I think the best way to go is just a buy and hold type thing. But even if you are a day trader or like a short-term trader, I think there's even potential for that. And then in terms of recovery plays, Tom and I have been talking about these things all morning. So we look at like RCL, CCL, airlines. I mean, they're popping off. I really like these plays, especially RCL. I've been in calls in this one for a little bit now, and it's awesome to see this type of movement. And I actually made a video on Friday about these ones, and it's definitely looking pretty good. And we're seeing a rotation out of tech and into recovery, which is awesome to see. I've been waiting for this for months now. And normally these rotations last for a couple months, actually.
Yeah, they do. And I love how RCL is getting up towards this big resistance, like right around $100. This will be the third time we touch that. So, a lot of people like to say that third touch might be the one that finally goes through. So hopefully we see a nice break up through $100. That would be amazing, Mike. And who knows, maybe RCL will come out with that they're, able to sail again or something, or they'll come out with some other good profits here in a couple months. But wow, I mean, I'm really glad to see this trade working out like this. And like you said, RCL, CCL, the cruise lines are doing great. I even like the airlines down here, like AAL. That's definitely part of the same sector. I just think that these stocks are in such good setups for the long term. And, I know that honestly, Mike, like we've been saying this ever since these stocks were like at $11, $15. I know we've been saying it for a long time. So it's definitely been looking pretty good here. And I love how their buy supports. AAL, I think, is one of my favorites, Mike. I just think that there's so much potential with these airlines. I love the cruise lines too, but the cruise lines have honestly moved up a lot the past week or two. Like that's a pretty big recovery out of RCL from 70 almost all the way back up to 100 right now. I feel like those cruise lines are honestly outperforming the airlines, Mike. Like they're showing a lot more strength, and I think that might show that over the next couple of years, the cruise lines might be the way to go rather than the airlines, even though the airlines might look like the percentages might be better.
All right, and we have Miles saying, "Good morning. Thoughts on Tesla?" So looking at Tesla, they're technically down, but when you have Tesla down 0.16%, that's nothing. So right now, it has potential to rise, but it doesn't have momentum just yet. If we see a break of maybe 780 or so, I'd look at it, or even a break of 770. There's potential movement on either side, but when we're just moving like we are now, where it's not up and it's not down, it's just sideways, it's hard to make any plays at all. So with that being said, I like it for a play, but we got to see some momentum first.
Yeah, we do. And I will say that I think that whenever we finally do break 780, I think that we might see a nice pop up through there. Like I said on the daily, we're right on this trend line that we've hit off of a lot. And then also that 780 resistance it's been pretty big in the past too. Like we hit that a few months ago on April 14th, right around 780, ended up falling pretty drastically right there again. And honestly, Tesla's been on the recovery pretty nicely, Mike. Like we had this bottom at 600. We've been coming up pretty slow and steadily all the way up here towards, 780 to 800. Personally, I wouldn't be too surprised to see a pullback, especially with Apple, Microsoft, and all these other stocks going down like the QQQ. If it continues to fall off the table, I could really see Tesla keep going down too. And I hate to say that though, because I love Tesla for the long term and I really wish them the best. I love their cars, I love their company, but just looking at it technically, if we can't break 780, it's going to be pretty hard, I think, in the short term. But I'm really hoping this will finally be the break because we've been up here quite a bit and I'm really looking for a nice move here.
All right, and then we have guys saying, look at FCEL go. So FCEL up 6% on the day. We're approaching that $8 resistance, and after that, we have $10. So definitely, it's like kind of recovery play, but to me, it's like more like a plug or something like that. But either way, it's looking pretty good. Not bad for a dip buy, not bad for calls either, with implied volatility this low. So definitely thank you for sharing that one, Guy. We have Sean saying, thanks, Mike and Tom. Thanks for joining, Sean, and thank you all so much for joining. If you gain value from the stream, it would really help us out if you could hit that like button. It takes like 2 seconds, and it greatly helps us out. So thank you guys so much for joining. We have Alex saying TLT is recovering from opening. Yes, it is. So TLT, it had a bad open, which is good if you're holding puts on it, and it's starting to pop back up. We are still down 0.2% on the day, which, you hear 0.2% and you're like, oh, that's nothing. But for an ETF like TLT, that's kind of a lot. Their implied volatility is like 16%. And what's crazy is, like, if you go to like the October expiration, a 0.2% move down has anywhere from like a 5 to 20% increase in some of these put options. So it's actually a decent move for TLT. And then on top of that, this is a play with like rates and bonds and treasuries. So these things move very, very slowly. So just keep that in mind. What we're likely to see, if this thing does continue down, is a lot of movement similar to this. Maybe a gap down in pre-market, and then it just does nothing for the rest of the day. Or just like really slow movement, because, these rates move very, very slow.
Yeah, and I think the rates are going to be a really big thing for the markets over the next few months. And one thing that I just wanted to point out, Mike, and you can tell me if you agree or disagree. And I'm not going to have my feelings hurt or anything here, but I'm looking at these stocks like Bank of America and TLT still up, fairly high, I'd say, and we're seeing Bank of America starting to really like rip up the upside, might break out to all-time highs soon. And, we're seeing JP Morgan, same deal, huge moves up. And, people are saying that the banks are expected to do better, like as the rates start to rise. And like, let's say now that the banks are flying up right now, and let's say they fly up maybe for the next month, and then rates start really rising after that. Do you think that maybe that there could be a situation where people are buying up the rumor almost on these on the rates going up, and that's why for example, like the banks might already be priced in, like once the rates start really flying up? Do you think that's a possibility, or do you think that it might come to where like the rates finally rise, then the banks rise, or do you think like they might already be a little bit priced in?
Yeah, I can definitely see them being a little bit priced in. And, rates have been moving a decent amount over the past couple weeks or so. And the bank stocks have been too, like especially over like the past couple trading days. But yeah, I can definitely see it being priced in a little bit. Keep in mind that a lot of these bank stocks are really, really close to their all-time high. And, let's say we see a huge increase in rates. Like, I mean, bank stocks might just hold their ground a lot better than other stocks, but I don't see them just continuing to, jump up 30% or 50% or anything like that. So, long story short, I definitely agree with you with how they could be priced in. And yeah, so good stuff there. We have Bravo saying Visa is on his list. So I saw these credit card companies like Visa and MasterCard have been struggling a decent amount over the past couple months or so, past couple weeks. They're having a good past couple days right now, and they're not looking horrible. They're just not really a play for me right now. Like, I'd rather be buying the dip on like Boeing, RCL, and Corsair, and even DraftKings.
Yeah, I agree. I would just have to agree with what you said. And the main thing is like Visa's been doing very good, but they have had this bad like month of pullbacks here, and it's kind of like in the middle of the range. I would really look for this resistance like right around 240 over the next few days. I do like the way Visa's coming back up though. I think it looks pretty decent. It might be like a good for a quick play, maybe like tomorrow morning or maybe like later on today if this continues up. But personally, I'd rather play the stocks Mike said too, like DraftKings, Corsair, or just some of those like lower stocks, even like CHPT or BLNK, I think could be a lot better this week with that infrastructure bill.
Okay, and then we have Jorge saying Palantir is really taking a dip after double top at 29. So yeah, it's definitely hurting a little bit, but they've been all over the place. Like sometimes we'll see horrible days with Palantir, and then the next day we're up 8%. So Either way, it does suck to see this, but I'm not really too worried about it.
Yeah, and it looks like Palantir has actually a pretty big range here, Mike. Like right between, it looks like $26 and $29. We've stayed right between there for the past couple weeks, and like you pointed out, look at these huge moves that we had to the downside just a week ago. Like on Monday, actually last Monday, we had a huge move down, and then later in the week on Wednesday and Thursday, we recovered all the way back. So that could definitely happen again this week, and I'm with them though. The double top definitely seems pretty good there at 29. It's definitely getting a little scary. I will say the technical setups are looking scary to me personally. And looking at it on the 1 year daily, I could possibly see it going down for a couple more days. But I'll be honest, I don't think that the recovery is over with Palantir at all. Even if it comes back down and retest 25, I feel like in the next couple months, we'll be back up towards 30 or even higher.
All right, and then we have Sean saying, Mike, don't you ever hurt Tom's feelings. All right, and then we have Alex with the next question saying, UPST back in the green. I can't believe it, Tom, but actually I was kind of expecting it, because every day, I mean, it's not a surprise. Every day it just seems like it just recovers right back up, and, at this pace, I wouldn't be surprised if it breaks 346 in the next 2 days.
Yeah, now my feelings are hurt because I wanted it to go down earlier. Now I'm sad. Now I'm sad. But man, what a recovery back. Like you said, I mean, so unsurprising. Like, man, it just goes up every single day. I was really hoping for it to hit some of these SMAs and finally go down, but we just failed to see it again, Mike. The people just come right back in, buying in UPST. Honestly, the max daily looks pretty good on this one again. I'm really hoping that I don't know what to say for it today, Mike. It looks like we're right at resistance, honestly. I have a resistance right around 335. I was going to say I'm hoping for a nice push up through that, but I don't know. It's going to be pretty hard, but man, we might break out to all-time highs again today. I mean, who knows? This is a crazy move, and I could see it happening possibly tomorrow or possibly the next day, but look out for this resistance right around 335. I think that's going to be pretty big for the next few minutes, but with the way it's going up, don't be surprised if it breaks above that now.
Yeah, I mean, just one thing to keep in mind, guys, like, I know UPST has been on a tear, but, it'd be extremely, extremely risky to play calls on this, because all it takes is, like, one down move, and before you know it, your calls will be down, like, 40%. So please be careful playing this one. And then, let's see. We have Keisha saying, what the heck is going on with DraftKings? So DraftKings has been struggling a lot lately. One, just based off of they had an amazing past month and a half, and it's pulling back. But also, two, they had that potential deal with Entain on the 21st, which really hurt the stock. A lot of times with mergers and acquisitions, you see the buying company, the company that's buying the other one, fall. A lot of times they're paying a premium for the company that they're buying. And another thing is, I believe this Entain deal was an all-stock deal. And, depending on the valuation that they buy Entain at, that can kind of hurt DraftKings a little bit. So that's the main reason. Either way, I still love them for the long term. Even though they had a bunch of momentum last month, it does suck to see the selling pressure this month. And then we have Elsie saying, look at AFRM. Let's take a look. AFRM up 5% on the day. I know they had that deal with Amazon, and then even that news with Walmart too. So it's looking pretty decent.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, this looks like a pretty bullish setup here, and I could see this one continuing to go up possibly. And I remember, Mike, we looked at this one on a YouTube video back on like September 14th, and I remember like right around there, I thought it looked pretty good, and it kept consolidating and just going up and down, but we're finally getting that nice breakout. And like you said, that deal with Amazon and then a deal with Walmart, like, man, they had two great deals in a row, just two nice gap ups on that daily chart, and I could see them definitely continuing up for today and possibly tomorrow. They have lots of momentum, and I think that their stock is honestly set up pretty well right now for a nice play to the upside. And I don't think that this red candle is all that we're going to see for this breakout above 130. I really think that we could continue up for today or tomorrow with this stock. I feel like there's a lot of momentum in here, and they're making a lot of good deals with good company.
All right, and then we have, let's see. Then we have Bravo saying, what do you guys feel about solar selling? Doesn't it remind you of March when rates went higher and tech and solar sold? Tech the same. So to an extent, I feel like we are at different points right now. Like, some of these solar stocks are so beaten down. Like, you look at RUN, and he said, doesn't it remind you of March? Like, the thing is, like, the prices were so much higher then. A lot of these companies are good companies that have a lot of potential to grow over the long term. And when you look at RUN and even Enphase, those are my two favorites. Like, I wouldn't mind holding them at these levels. And quite honestly, I just feel like they're about to pop up as well. So I feel like, yes, there are some connections to March when tech also sold off. But at the same time, the market is a little different, and I just like these stocks at these levels, and even on like a technical basis, they look pretty good.
Yeah, I think that the main thing here is like the technicals and the bounces on support. And also like we're seeing some big analysts like Kathy Wood has been picking up a lot of shares of stocks like RUN down here. She might not have specifically picked up RUN, but just stocks in general like RUN, like RUN, CHPT, LCID, stocks like that. I feel like a lot of people have been grabbing these stocks off support, and you can see a lot of them are honestly bouncing today. Like CHPT is moving well off support, and I feel like we could definitely see these stocks continue on for, maybe for like the next couple months or so. I love them for the long term, and keep in mind that these infrastructure bills and stuff are coming out this week, and all these EV companies are expected to have mentionings of EV funding and stuff like that in these bills. So that's the big thing, I think, with these stocks this week. And this might finally be the catalyst we need to get away from these supports. Like if CHPT gets a nice pop from 20 up to 25, everyone's probably going to go crazy and start buying CHPT. So, hopefully we can get in while it's low around 20 and then get in before that move happens.
Yeah. Then we have Bravo saying, I heard Kathy Wood bought this DraftKings dip buy. Entain is a solid company in England for gambling. England is huge on gambling. So I love DraftKings, and one of the main reasons I love them is they're on offense. They're buying up a bunch of companies. They're making deals like what seems like every week. They're getting into NFTs. They're getting into everything. Like they're on offense, and they're like, you know what I mean? They're growing, and even if their stock is really volatile, I just feel like the potential on this one is insane, and it's not like there's some, $1 million valuation company that's a penny stock, like they're already a strong company. They have a good brand, a good reputation, and they're just in a good spot. And I feel like it has a lot of potential to grow, not only with the company, or the moves that the company is making with all these deals, but, even just when more states legalize this sports betting and gambling online, I feel like it's huge.
Yeah, I think it's huge too. And just looking at it in general, like you pointed out, they're a huge company. And I'll be honest, like I've been, like Mike, we've been going through stock after stock after stock. I don't think I've seen a company go on offense, like you said, as much as DraftKings has. Like they've been innovating so much. They even got into this coveted NFT business now, Mike. Like this is huge. Like the NFTs are supposed to be huge for the long term. They got into that business. They're huge into sports betting. They're going to be legalizing sports betting in more states, which is just going to open them up to millions and millions of more customers as the years go on. So I'm with you. I think it's a great pickup here, low like this. And if Kathy Wood's been buying this dip, I think that's an awesome time. I think it's a great time to buy. And, I'm with Bravo. The UK is pretty big for sports betting. Now, I don't think it's going to be as big of a market as over here, but I know that they love their soccer or as they say over there, football, but our football is a little different, but they call it football anyways, but soccer, whatever you want to call it. I just don't want to get made fun of in the chat, but either way, I see a lot of people doing sports betting over there. Like he said, it's going to be a big market, and DraftKings is just getting into everything, Mike. They're buying UK companies. They're doing NFTs. They're launching the DraftKings Sportsbook. What's next? Are they going to start opening in-person casinos? Like I honestly wouldn't even be surprised at this point, or maybe like in-person sports betting areas, or who knows, something like that.
Yep, they're on offense, and I love it. So then we have Bravo saying Entain is like a $20 billion company, market cap, so good to see. We have Bravo also saying he bought more of Boeing. I like it. It's a solid stock, solid company. And Tom, hit us with some of these major resistance levels. Like, what should we watch? I know that Boeing has been just doing nothing for months now. So, where can it move?
Yeah, honestly, there's a huge resistance coming up right around $240. I think that's going to be the main one to look for. We're kind of channeling right now between 210 and 240, and we've been bouncing off of these levels a lot in the past. I'll extend my 210 to the left here just so we can see it a little bit better. Let me get some of these lines off of here just so that we can see our closer range, like just so that we can see this range a little bit better here. But here we go. Now I have it all drawn out, and we have the low around 210, the top here around 240. If we break 240, the next one's like all the way up around 260. But man, this is an awesome range. And every time it seems like we hit 210, we get some decent pops up towards 240. At least we try to get up there. And it's on a very nice uptrend right now. It could definitely consolidate around 230 or something and possibly sit there for a day or two. But I really love the momentum right now, and I could possibly see it hitting 240 maybe later this week or maybe at the beginning of next week. But overall, these moves have been awesome, Mike. I think that this channel between 210 and 240 is so key. And then also for the long term, I have this long term blue trend line that we've stayed above. We're able to pop back above it. We're getting awesome moves to the upside above it, too. Like, we're not just having a slow move day. Like, we're up 3% with a nice pop up off of there. So I think overall the technicals are lining up very well for Boeing. And I like how you said for the long term, it's awesome. You're like right in the middle of the range here. So you're not getting killed on like an option. Like if you would buy an option right now and then it would fall back down to 220 or maybe retest 210, that would get killed pretty bad. But your shares will only fall like, $10 or $20 a share. So it's not too bad there. And I think for the long term, the potential is great. The main thing to look for, I think, Mike, is going to be that 240 resistance. That's huge, and we've hit off of it a lot.
Good stuff. Let's take a look at RUN really quickly. RUN, it's up like 1.5% on the day, and we can see at open, it had a bad opening, but buyers came right back in and bought it up, and I think this is going to be huge for like the next couple weeks or so.
Yeah, I think so too. And Mike, I'm really curious what caused so many buyers to come in like this, and I'm wondering if it's stuff to do with the infrastructure bill, because I know that these stocks were running a lot off of that rumor a while ago, and I know that it's set to pass this week or something. So if that does happen and we start to see these stocks pop off, definitely be ready, guys, because stocks like RUN, BLNK, CHPT, I feel like that they're all going to have a lot of potential if that bill gets passed. And like Mike said, they're already kind of popping up, and I'm not sure if it's people buying in because of that or not, but either way, a lot of momentum coming in.
All right, then we have Bravo saying, thanks, guys. Have a great day. As a healthcare worker, I do believe in 1 to 2 years, COVID hopefully fades, and reopening play should be good forward. So, yeah, thanks for that insight, and thanks for everything you do, Bravo. And yeah, hopefully it fades away. I know there's a lot of people saying a lot of different things, and it's hard to know what's going to happen, but that is good news. The main thing, at least as of right now in the market, is these recovery plays are popping off more than anything. Like you look at powerhouses like Apple, like anything really, and cruise lines or not cruise lines, recovery plays are leading the way, which is awesome. Yeah, and then he mentioned TAN for the infrastructure bill related to solar. That's actually a good idea. I'm actually very, very glad you mentioned that, Bravo, because I'm probably going to play that.
Yeah, that would be an awesome thing to play, actually. A lot of solar stocks put into one, and, it might not go up as much as one singular stock, but hey, it's a lot safer.
Yeah, I'm actually really, really considering like selling puts on this one. So thank you, Bravo, for sharing that. Then we have Head saying, what do you think about Plug with infrastructure? I know we talked about this one a little bit, and I like it. I got juked out of it personally, but I do like the setup.
Yeah, and I personally feel like right now, the setup that it's in, to me, it almost looks like a dead cat bounce to the upside, like I said earlier, Splinter. And you can see that there's these two red pullback days right here, and we're starting to see a nice recovery back up again today. And I feel like that as a daily setup here, if we could start to see another green candle, or if we can pass above that high of like last Thursday, let's say if we could break out above 2840 or 2850 to the upside, I would really love Plug. And I think I might personally even buy shares if we see that happen, because I think that this daily setup looks awesome. Like I said, it looks like a dead cat bounce. And if this does get passed, the infrastructure bill, and these guys end up getting some funding, I could really see a nice pop. And I'm not saying it's going to fly up to $40, but I could possibly see a nice move up above 30, maybe up to like 31 or 32.
All right. And then, yeah, so that's mainly it. Tom, do you have any last minute stocks or anything you're watching for the rest of the day?
Yeah, I'm actually really keeping my eyes on LCID, which is Lucid Motors on the daily. They look like they could actually recover up pretty nicely if we can get back up towards $28 a share. Yeah, it's moving back up very nicely this morning. Lots of momentum back to the upside, and I'm honestly really liking it. Of course, I'm still watching all these other stocks like CCL, RCL, Boeing, CHPT. It's just, we talked about those thousands of times already this morning, so didn't want to bring them up too much, but definitely still eyeing them up too. They're very key. And then one other thing that I'm eyeing up that I feel like a lot of people have not forgotten about, but I feel like a lot of retail traders have at least, is Bank of America. And a lot of these banks are right around their all-time highs. I know we talked about it earlier this morning too, but man, I mean, we might get a nice breakout here from Bank of America up to all-time highs. Same thing with JP Morgan. I mean, these stocks are getting so close to these highs that if we see a nice like breakout, they could have a nice like multi-day run. And I'm not saying they're gonna fly up to 180 or anything like that with JP Morgan, but like I could see a nice like little bit like a 3-day momentum swing or something like that if we break all-time highs.
Good stuff. And then we have Alex saying, would it be too early to enter swing plays for CHPT, BLNK with the infrastructure? And then Headsplinter was thinking the same thing, and he's looking at CHPT. And I would say no. It's at a good level right now. And keep in mind that, look, no one can time anything perfectly. In worst case scenario, let's say you buy now and it drops lower, you can always just average in. So let's say like just a random number, let's say you want to put $2,000 in the CHPT for call options. You could enter like 1,000 now and 1,000 a couple days from now. So you can always average in, but I don't even think it's too late. Or not too early, I should say. It's not too early.
Yeah, I don't think it's too early either. And we're bouncing right on support like with CHPT at $20. And the good news is that like you could get shares at $20 a share, and if the stock goes down to like $19 or $18, you can just get out really quickly for a quick loss of $2 a share. Now, I would recommend just keep holding it personally, but if you wanted to be really risk adverse, you could do that. And your risk to your risk reward ratio right now is at such a good level. For example, like I said, you might lose $2 a share here going to $18, but you have a potential to make like $10 a share going up to 30, or I mean, I'd hate to even say it, maybe even 20 a share heading to 40. I mean, if it gets hot enough, but that'll probably take a long time. So I'd recommend personally just selling puts here or possibly just grabbing some shares for the long term. I think that's more the way to go. You could grab some leaps here too. I think it's at a great time for leaps, but if you just want to be really risk adverse, shares I think will be a little bit smarter. And I feel like that they could definitely recover up like we've been talking about all morning. And I feel like LCID is even like thrown into this mix of different like recovery type of EV stocks as well.
All right, and then we have Head saying, lastly, what do you think of NUE? So I'm just neutral on this one. It doesn't have that momentum. I mean, it's looking decent to the upside, but it doesn't really have any true momentum in my opinion. Plus, earnings are soon. Plus, I don't see anything special about them right now, so I'm just neutral.
Yeah, we did just fill this gap, and we're heading back towards like the 105 to like 110 resistance too. So definitely be careful of that.
All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. Jorge said MMAT now at 11% for the day. So shout out Jorge for that awesome MMAT play. And I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. And thank you so much for joining.